Okay, minor technical issue, but I think I'm on. Wow, welcome back everyone. I thought, hello, we've got a bit of an issue here, but yeah, I think I'm on. So I'm sure you'll soon let me know. So welcome back, guys, to Robbo's Tech Talk Tuesday, episode 5, and tonight I'm going to talk about binoculars. So, yep, Robin, I see a few are up already. This is great. Yeah, look, I'm going to talk a bit about binoculars, but I'm not going to sort of banter on about what brands that I would sort of, well, I'm not going to be bashing brands down your throat sort of thing, but I will talk about where I'm at now with my binos and how I've got there. And then what I'm going to go and do is basically go back through your questions, guys. So by all means, welcome everyone again. And it's great to see a few people, new faces up here and some regulars, which is really, really good. So yeah, look, I won't muck around. I'm going to get straight into it. As we know, time flies. So probably like most people with their binos, you know, you've sort of got to, well, for me, for a long time, I never hunted with binoculars. So I thought to myself, why spend a lot of money on them? But then once you start to spend good money on them, you start to see how good they can become and a real vital tool in your sort of arsenal for hunting. And I started off with the cheaper brands, sort of the Nikons and that. Not that they're real cheap. I think I started off with a pair of Bushnells actually, and progressed through. And each time I sort of traded them or sold them off, got a new pair, and basically I've got to the stage now I realise the value of a really good set of binoculars, and I tend to use them more now than I ever have, possibly because my eyes are getting worse as I get older. But yeah, look, the current ones I have at the moment are these little Zeiss 8x32 FLTs. They're probably my favourite for stalking. They're light. I'll weigh them, this and the other pair in a minute, just to show you the difference. They're not cheap. I bought these second hand, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. And then recently, I actually sold off a pair of 8.5 EL Swarovskis and went for the big hooers, the 15s, the 15 by 56. And these are pretty awesome, but they're not something you want to hold handheld. So anyway, I'm just going to quickly give you an idea of the weight difference between these. So if you want to sort of, I'll just put the little webcam on. So the big 15s, you're going to see they're a fair lug of a weight, where the little 8x32s are virtually half or under half that weight. So I'll come back online here. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with my binos at the moment. And the 8x32s for me have been by far, these little ones, the Zeiss have been far the best I've had. And the only pair I really regret selling is I had a pair of 8x32 Leica BNs. I sold them to Paulie. And you might see the bright orange ones that he wears around his neck. They are really good bino. The 15s are obviously not something that you want to be using handheld, and I'll just move on to that quickly. The setup I'm using at the moment, you might notice this stud on the front here. Now that for this is basically what I use is called an outdoorsman harness, which basically hooks on here and then goes on my tripod. The best part about this, you can sort of lock that down, and that sort of reduces any lateral movement. But you can leave it loose either way. But yeah, it's just a matter of pressing that button, and that will come out like that. Now I'll put a quick link, because this is one product I actually think is better than the Swarovski genuine one. I'll just put a quick I'll bring that up if anyone's interested in that. The Outdoorsman Bino adapter, definitely worth looking into. You can actually see it there. You have to buy the studs, and as it says, the studs have to suit your individual pair of binos. The best part about the SLCs is you only have to pop the cap off. This screws straight in. So, yeah. The only other change I've done on here is put the winged eye cups on. Yeah, Daz talked me into that, and to be honest with you, I didn't need much talking into it. So, all right. So, that's my bino setup at the moment. And I'll have a look at the questions now, guys, and I sort of want to keep it rolling, so I don't want to be rude, but I just got to keep it flowing, because time flies, as we know. So I will answer some of these questions, and then I'm going to go back through and look at some of the bino harnesses and that I've sort of tried and have now settled on. So yeah, I'll go through these questions now. I'll catch up, and then we'll move on to the next section. Blimey, Richard Hadfield, I seen you put one up early. Yeah, mate, you're going away. Good luck to you, but I won't be coming. I'd love to. A couple of weeks and we'll be up. Myself, Ben and Paulie are going away. I'm looking forward to it, actually. Cole Curtis, I'll have another go. I'll put you on the spot here, Robbo. Which bino is better, Swarovski or Leica in, say, 10 by 50? Look, I'll be honest with you. When you get up to those calibers of brands, there's going to be very, very little in it. In most cases, you're going to be struggling to pick much between them optically. And what I think it really comes down to in the end is the ergonomics of it, how comfortable they are, how the alignment of it, like the adjustments, how your hands feel on them. Look, I must admit the ELs, my 8.5 ELs were probably the best as far as the fit in the hand. But in the end, I just didn't need 2 pairs of 8 binoculars. So I ended up selling the 8.5s off and went to the big 15s, which are purpose-built sort of bino. So to be honest with you, either one is going to be great, but yeah, look, when you get to that sort of price range in the market, I would just look at who's offering you the best warranty, and not only the warranty on paper, but who offers you the best warranty, the best service. And for me, look, they've both been great. And look, to be honest with you, I think we've only called on one optic to be serviced, and that was a Swaro. No questions asked, bang, send it up, and it was sorted out in very, very good time. So yeah, mate, it's just, I would get to the point, even down to the eye cups, how the eye cups feel on your face. Like Ben's got a pair of Carl's, I think they're 10 by 42s. Great binos, great value, optically good, but when you're using them all day, the first thing you notice is how good they fit around your eyes and how easy they are to adjust. And Ben said the eye cups on his probably could do with some improving. So yeah, mate, it's down to you to pick them both up, and that might be the hardest thing, is trying to find someone that has them both. Michael O'Sullivan, hi Robbo, I have a set of Swarovski binoculars for about 22 years. Is it possible to get them serviced in Australia? Well, they probably won't get serviced in Australia, but you can definitely contact the boys at Swaro in Sydney. If you have trouble getting onto them, let me know and I'll help you out there. But Hans and the boys up there are fantastic, and I'm sure they will organise it and get them sent back to Austria, most likely, and I'm sure they'll come back as good as new. But definitely get onto them, and like I said, if you have any dramas, let me know. Jason Richards, welcome back, Robbo. Thanks, mate. Are binoculars only as good as the eyes looking through them? For those of us that don't wear our glasses out in the field, thanks, mate. Look, depending on the issue with your eyes, they're definitely going to help no matter what. And the best part about your binos is you can adjust them to suit just about any eye issue. Well, I have, and it's only been recently that I've had the lens actually changed in my right eye, and all of a sudden my Swarovskis actually look like Swarovskis and not Nico Sterling. I shouldn't be hanging it on Nico Sterling, but I think you know where I'm coming from. So look, most cases, good binos are just going to be an absolute bonus, and I'll be very surprised if you can't fine tune them to suit your individual eye situation. And obviously, you can actually wind the eye cups in and still wear your glasses in many situations. I don't do that. I usually just adjust my binos to suit my eyes. Dale J, evening Robbo, thanks mate. I've seen that comment. Hunter and Fisher NZ, great to see you again, mate. Yeah, I'm doing fine, thank you. Keita Productions, hey Robbo, thanks mate. I'm just going to quickly move through to the questions here, guys. See some familiar faces: Ian Colleen, Stuart Carter, Jet Townley. Hey Robbo, love seeing the vids, mate. I used to fox shoot with Lee. Good on you, Jeff. Or Jet, I should say. Jody Hurd. Hey Robbo, you legend. I don't know about that. I have a pair of Miopto Mio Star 10x42s and always wonder how much of a difference a set of high-end binos would be in comparison. Any ideas, mate? Look, the Mioptas are very good value for money, and they've had a few different ranges, I think, I believe, over the years. But the ones I've looked through have been really good. I don't think they are on par with, say, your top of your range Swaros and your Leicas and probably your Zeiss, but they're not that far off. I'd probably put them up in the sort of 80 to 90% in comparison. But yeah, look, it's always pardon the pump, it's a bit of a bitch that you can't actually line them all up and try them yourself, because it's sort of something you need to do. And what you often find with the better binos is it's the little things. When you're looking towards the sun, you don't get that sun glare, and obviously low light performance. So it's just those little things that they sort of fine tune. Enough said. Great to see you up and at it again. Thanks. Good on you, Jeff. Thanks, mate. Paul Wheatley. G'day, Robbo. All right, guys, I'll keep moving down here a bit. I just want to catch up. This is what happens. There's a few up here now. Wayne Hammond. Evening, Steve. Have you had any experience, good or bad, with Vortex 15x56? I personally have only held them up and tried them a little bit in shop, but I spoke to Daz down at Morocco 30 about them recently, and he was pretty impressed. And they are very, very good value for money. But I've also, as much as I've got some Vortex products, I've got a Vortex Razor Spotter, which I love. I've also heard, and I might get corrected here, but I've also heard that Vortex quality of late, maybe it's just in their scopes, has dropped off a little bit. But bear in mind, every company has issues with products, and good companies rectify this. So, yeah, just probably do a little bit of research on it. Look, if they're at their best, they will be good, and definitely worth looking into. Roxby Coultus, hi there. G'day, mate. Billy there. Hey, Steve. Hey, guys. Steve, all right. Look, I'll just move on quickly here. Reg Parker. Evening, mate. I'm back in town. Oh, that's good to hear, mate. What do you think of binos and rangefinder in one? I've thought about it, and I've gone away from it. Well, I shouldn't say gone away from it. I've stayed away from it at this stage purely because I already had a rangefinder, and I've always found the Leica rangefinders have been the best for me. They've got the smallest ranging sort of square reticle, which is probably better for the smaller targets, and I've never ever had an issue with them. So because I've already had the rangefinder, it sort of hasn't come into the equation. But I'd also recommend that you check the warranty on binos with sort of electronics in it, in comparison, say, the same product with just the optics. In other words, just a binocular, because I don't believe it's the same. Well, I definitely don't think it's the same. No, look, just check it out, because definitely great idea. Whether I put all my eggs in one basket at this stage, no, I haven't, and I don't have any intention to. Richard Hadfield, all good binos for long range scouting, okay, but anything inside 50 metres will suffice. Yes and no. The little one thing I've noticed with these compared to, say, the Leicas, is these you can really thread the needle with them, as far as the focus is very, very precise. Very similar to, like, if you're looking at if you're into photography and you're looking at, say, a lens that's got a large aperture. In other words, a very short depth of field of focus. The depth of field of focus in these is very precise, and you can sort of punch it in and out meter at a time. And yeah, they are just awesome, those. The little Leicas that I had, the 8x32 BNs, sort of had a longer depth of field where your focus was sort of, focus area was greater, and they were easier to use, as in not as touchy on the focus knob, but definitely not as precise. So yeah, look, it really comes down to what you want from them. But yeah, any bino is going to be better than no bino. Fish Train Hunt. Hi, Robbo. G'day, mate. Matty Webb. G'day, mate. A must investment, those bino adapters. Tripod. Yes, mate, especially with the big 15s. And that's something that I've sort of now pushed away from, virtually not using my spotting scope as much, because I can have those binos with me, and it offers me a little bit more versatility. And I'll be honest with you, as much as I love my Swarovski products, that Outdoorsman adapter is probably one of the best I've seen by far. Righto, great to see you boys talking between yourselves as well. Keeps, oh, blimey, it's the trouble, I'll get a few up here. Sorry boys, I need a swig of the drink. Okay, Gordon Walsk, you've gone with 8x32s rather than 8x42s or 8x50s. Any advantage or disadvantage from 32 versus 4250? Well, that comes down to brand, mate. Those 8x32s there, I would put up against just about any 8x42, and I tell you now, they weren't far off. And if in some situations they were better than my 8.5 by 42 ELs. So I can't rate them highly enough. But they are an expensive bino. But bear in mind, I'll touch on this maybe a bit later, you don't have to buy new. There's plenty of good binos coming up second-hand. And a good place to buy second-hand binos is keep an eye on Euro Optics in the States. They have a used section there, and there's some great bargains to pick up there. Alex is a great bloke to deal with. I don't know if you deal with him directly anymore, but I can tell you now, his ratings of his products, if he says they're in good condition, they're probably going to be in excellent condition. Stuart Carter. Hi, Robbo. I have a budget of around $1,000, give or take a bit. Is there a product around that range you would recommend? All right, mate. Well, you've got to probably enlighten me a little bit whether... I'll just answer this question as if you're talking for normal deer stalking and whatever. Probably an 8 or a 10 by 42 seems to be the norm. A lot of people like 10s, a lot of people like 8s. If you're just going to buy one bino, probably the 10s would be the go. $1,000. Look, I think you're going to... Probably the Carls. Probably the Carls would be... And they may be a bit dearer than that. But other than that, any of the Leica, Swaro, some of the Zeiss, the Vortex Razor, some of those, keep an eye on them second hand, would be definitely my recommendation. And a little bit like what I was mentioning before, as in buy the best you can, but don't be afraid to buy second hand. But just do your research. Okay, Wade Spring. Anyone else sound a bit hard to hear? Is anyone having issues with hearing me? The audio levels should be fine. Probably going to have to skip down to wait for these answers for that. Raw Fishing. Hi, Robbo. In your opinion, is a spotting scope or a 15 power binos better for long range glassing? For long range, depending on what distance you're talking, I would say ideally it'd be nice to have both there. But if I had to pick one, I would say the 15s set up on with the adapter, the Outdoorsman or something similar, would probably be my pick on the tripod, because I've got the tripod here. What you want to do is you sort of click this. Now, this is one of my favourite tripods, but basically, if I click that in, so it never works when I want it to, possibly if I go in the right way, that works better. Lock that in. The whole idea when you're doing this is to try and have your handle on the front. That way, if you move left, your binos move left. If you put it to the back, it's in this way, everything's got to do it in reverse. No, not a deal breaker, but just a little thing. And this is one of the best spotting scope bino heads you can buy, but I don't know if they're made anymore. They're not cheap, but if you buy them from overseas, it's a Gitzo. I think it's a 1720 QR or something like that. But one wheel, you can go wherever you want. And then once you get there, you can load up that and it's not going anywhere. So, yeah, another little thing to think about. All right. Richard Hatfield. Like all hunting, hobby gear, buy what you can afford as usual in this great Australia. Yeah, pretty much. But like I said, second hand, mate, you can pick up some great binos. Okay. Sail, fish train hunt. Hi, Robbo. Have you tried the Maven binocular? If so, what do you think? Haven't tried them in the field. Had a look through them at some of the expos, and definitely from a few of the people I know that have got them, really like them. But I haven't been able to compare them to, say, some of my other binos. But definitely well worth a look. And yeah, there's been a few guys do some reviews on them. But the biggest issue is being able to basically test them. That's always the issue with any bino in Australia. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, the sound should be good. Bloke talking might be too good. All right. Edward Berryman, streaming a uni lecture and listening into this awesome channel. Bugger me, multitasking shouldn't be this hard. Oh, tell me about it, mate. I'm the worst at it. Okay, Cohen McKenzie. What tripod you use with the 15? Well, I talked about that a little bit, but I'll just enlighten you a little bit more on my tripod setup, because I've got a few, and this has taken me a lot to sort of perfect. This brand here, I don't know if you're going to see that. You might see it better on there. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it because I always get it wrong. I think it's Siru. Oh, yeah, see, I told you I'd get it wrong. Yeah, this sort of does... This is my go-to tripod. You can buy these. This is a carbon fibre. You can buy them on eBay. The only difference is I put a self-leveling head on here in between. Normally that would go straight on there, but I have a self-leveling head, so if I want to set the cameras up without having to muck around with the adjusting legs, I can do that. And that adds a little bit of weight, but well worth it. And then, as I mentioned, the Gitzo head. B&H Photo or Camera Gear in New York. If you can't get it here, it's the place to look for that sort of gear. All right, Matty Webb. Oh, geez, what have I flicked up to there? Low light is the biggest factor between the good, bad, and ugly. Vortex Viper glass is great glass for money, and I may be corrected, but the same as the razors. Again, Matty, I can't comment on whether one is as good as the other, but I can only talk about when I compared some of the spotting scopes. And I've had the Vortex for a few years now, my spotter, and the razor was definitely that little bit better. and I've had a few. The razor was best value for me. Jake that shoots for us, young Jake, has got, he'll quote me here, but he bought the Vortex. I think he got the 10x42s in the razors, and I must admit, there's bugger all in them between those and the ELs. I was quite impressed, and he got them early on at a very good price. So yeah, I can't comment on the other ones, but either way, when you start to get to that sort of range of product, I don't think you're going to be unhappy. Richard Hadfield, thumbs up already. Thanks, mate. Oh, now hold on. Ignore that woman there. She's trying to shit stir me. That's my wife. I shouldn't have sold Paulie my binos, Shaz. So yeah. Claverton, off topic. But did you load your 222 with a hot or modest powder load? Do you remember? Yeah, quickly. I don't want to go off topic here. 222, 24.5 grains, benchmark 2 behind the 50 grain VMAX was my load, mate, in the Seiko. Aussie Hunting Life. Hi, Robbo. I'm loving these live chats. As a percentage, how much do you use your binos for glassing and how much do you just stalk? Well, that comes down to the country that you're hunting in. But I'll answer it this way. Probably more now than I used to, and probably not enough as I should, because there's times that I should have been glassing where I'm moving and, as we've always done, a bump deer. So, yeah, if you speak to blokes that are really in the know, like Dougie Reed and that, mate, the amount of glassing that he does is very high to the amount of walking he does, and it pays off, often, more often than not. So, Stuart Browning, woo, I made it this week. Hey, Hall, good on you, Stuart. Stephen Lighter Shoot Pove. I need a pair of binoculars under 500. What good brand? Ooh, that's a tough one, mate. Either second hand. Look, some of the Nikons, I think the Nikon Monarchs aren't bad. Worth a look, but yeah, look, you're struggling to get something for that sort of money. Reg Parker, thanks, mate. My Leica Bino hasn't steered me wrong. What's next week's topic? So I question up ready the wife because I'll be out of town. I've thought about it, and we may actually talk about scopes next week, but that's at this stage. Christian Hunters Australia. Hey, Robbo, great concept. These live chats, buddy. When do you swap over to a spotting scope? What is your choice of spotting scopes? My choice of spotting scope is the Vortex Razor, the 85mm, and I took the 20 to 60 variable eyepiece out and just put a fixed 30 power in, which is a wide angle. That seems to be the sweet spot for me. When do I use it? Depending on the situation, more when I have the time, as in time to prepare my shots, and obviously the further distances. I sort of, if carrying things isn't an issue, I'll take them both. But yeah, obviously, and often I'm filming through it using the phones as well. So, all right, I'm just going through. The boys are all saying the audio is good. Thank you very much. Goran G. Hi, Steve. Better late than never. Yes, it certainly is, mate. Good to see you here. What would you recommend as a lightweight bino for all-day stalking use? Best I've ever used, by far. But the ones I sold the Paulie. No, look, second-hand, if you can buy a pair of Leica 8x32 BAs or BN. The difference between the BA and the BN can focus closer than the BAs. So jump on your some of the bird watching forums. They're pretty good on recommending binos. But yeah, great pair of binos. Very good value for money. Glenn Patton. Evening, Robbo. Do you have any examples of when less quality or no binos cost you a trophy when hunting? No, not really. Obviously, I've moved when I shouldn't have, but whether the binos would have made the difference. But what they do for you is when you think, is that a deer or an antler or something like that, or a foot, that's when you can get your binos up and, you know, verify it, well, hopefully verify it. But as we know, these Samba can be masters of illusion. Mac Rocker, how are you, mate? Go. My wife wants her bino or my binos back. Right. Daniel Martin. I don't need anything too special. Looking at Vortex, what size and magnification would you recommend? Got a property that shoot on that I can see up to 2Ks. Well, when you pick binos and get power of your binos, it's what you can hold steady and feel comfortable with. But obviously realise you go to a bino is not like a scope where you can turn back the magnification to make it brighter, or variable scope. A bino, you're stuck with the power. So if you're going to go to a higher powered, say a 10 or 12, whatever, you definitely need to step up to the better brands. But sort of the 10s, probably a 10 by 42 is probably hard to go by for a general sort of use. Eric, oh mate, I hate trying to say your name. Let me give it a crack. Zwiggler. Hopefully I got that right. How's it going? What's the topic? Binos, mate. Chuck. G'day, mate. Have you had any of the Steiner binos, and how would you compare them to the higher end binos? Yes, I actually did have a pair of Steiners, one of the early pairs. I think they were the Safari, which didn't have the focus knob. No comparison, mate. I don't want to use foul language, but I wouldn't waste my money. You'll only end up buying something better. So, yeah, look, probably the top end, the Steiners aren't bad, but, yeah, I wouldn't go down to the Safari range and whatever, that's for sure. Digger Mel, g'day, Robbo. Great episode again, mate. Cheers, Mel. Good on you. Thank you. Eric, I've just onto a Meopta binoculars and rifle scope. Meopta, like I said, very good value for money. She always, because I have to have full strength to get this streaming out. So I say, oh, don't go running Netflix. So I think she's got the shits up with me. Nah, she's my best supporter. David McGuinness. G'day, Robbo. What bino cleaning products do you carry in the field? Well, that's a good topic and something to sort of digress into. And probably the best bino cleaning products is this. That is the best thing you can use. That, and if they really get bad, spit. But look, ideally, the first thing you want to do with any sort of optic, whether it's binoculars, scopes, or whatever, is get rid of any dust on it. The old puffer like this, or a light brush first with a very light brush. Once you've got all the dust or anything off them, any sort of cloth that you can get from an optical company is going to do the trick. But if they just need a light wipe, do exactly what I've done there. Just breathe on it and then just give them a wipe. If they've really got bad and you need to make a bit of spit, and then do exactly the same process. That is the best product you can have, something you've got with you all the time, something that's not going to hurt the optics. So be very careful of using any sort of chemicals. Right, where are we? Kevin was, thanks, mate. Oh, look, don't start me with Shaz, mate. She's the most tolerant person, I'm telling you now, and she is as fit as a fiddle. But, yeah. As Matty Webb said, a bino adapter makes the most of good binos when combined with a tripod. And I must admit, Dave from Hunting a Red, he virtually sold me on those outdoorsman thing. And he actually said to me at the time, as much as we both like love our Swaro stuff, in the end, that outdoorsman was basically the bee's knees. And I must admit, it is the only time I probably recommend one product, hands down. But bear in mind, I think if you've got ELs or whatever, you have to send the binos away to have the stud fitted. I might be wrong, but the SLs, SLCs, whoever they are, you can do it yourself. All right, guys, I'm going to go on into harnesses a little bit in a moment. I'll answer a couple more questions here. Daniel Martin, I have the Vortex Diamondback 10x42. No complaints here. Very happy with them for the price. No, exactly. Look, when you get these sort of binos, it's not until you hold them up against another one that you can actually say, oh, hold on. And often there's very little in them, and it comes back to what I started off with, just the ergonomics of them. Ryan Targ, g'day mate. What bino harness do you reckon works good for a 10x42? Have you tried any eye caps on your binoculars? All right. I'm going to quickly diverge now, or create a segue, is that the term of today, and talk about some of the bino harnesses that I've used and what I'm currently using. It'll all depend on what you have around you. Now, for me, I just need it to carry my binos and possibly the rangefinder on the side. And primarily, if I am going somewhere and taking my big pack and not going to be able to take my harnesses, normal harnesses, the simple little S4 lockdown is probably the simplest of the lot. Doesn't offer the most protection, but it does work quite well. And you might notice that I have different loops and rings that I can sort of clip this onto those rings, or put those onto the other harness I'll talk about. So these are good. They're simple. They're light. But they offer enough protection for your glass top and bottom, but not obviously the bino. So they're not going to stop them getting. So the Badlands, one of the best warranties out there. Doesn't matter where you buy it. If it breaks, they'll replace it, repair it, or whatever. Not a bad harness. Again, it's got magnets in it, whatever. But I don't use that anymore, purely because Dougie Reed, the Oracle, has basically told me, give these a try, mate. Now, believe it or not, marsupial, kangaroo on them, they're made in the USA. But a good product, different sizes. This one here is for, getting in camera shot, for my little binos. And as you can see, they easily fit in there. And the difference with this is I can actually, now they've got a magnet to hold it down and a magnet to hold it up. And you've obviously got the harness. The harness is probably pretty big and bulky, with the clips being quite big. But what I've done is actually modified my vest that I always use. So I can clip on that one, or I can clip on the bigger one for my 15s. And I've also got the Rangefinder Pouch, which you can get. Definitely one of my favourites, but it is pretty much just a bino harness. If you want something that, like if you've got a pack and you want something that's going to carry more gear on the front, mate, Rob's one, the Morocco 30, it's pretty hard to beat for that. And Paulie's just got himself one recently, and he's been very happy with it. And it's got a lot more spots to put stuff in it. So yeah, depending on your need, just a harness. Probably my favourite at the moment is the marsupial. Plenty of them out there. Yeah, so that's where I'm at this stage. Right, I'll go back to some of these questions, guys. Hopefully I can catch up here. At back Broadheads. G'day, Luke. How are you, mate? Hey, Steve. How are the rangefinder binos you've looked through for clarity, especially in the side the readout is in? Very good question, mate. And I know you'll probably quite correct me here, but I'm pretty sure you've got the Carls. Some of them, I know it sounds silly, but when you actually put them up, the displays on a bit of an angle. I believe the new Zeiss range finding binos, which look like a normal pair of binos, have got the buttons on sort of actually on here and here, and you can, they're a pretty high-tech piece of gear, and obviously the price reflects it. But the difference with those, for argument's sake, is I think, and I'm probably sure that I think the Leicas you can do it. You can actually adjust the focus separately of your readout, as well as obviously adjust your binos. The difference with these new Zeiss is they range, like you can set one button to be a range and one button to be a menu sort of thing, but they range on release. Again, haven't tried them in the field, but they're a high-tech Bluetooth sort of bino, which I think can have up to about 10 different rifle settings in them for ranging. So now, I'll just double check that I've answered that, Luke, especially in the side the reader. Now, again, I might get corrected here, but I believe some of the range finding binos don't have the HD glass in them in comparison to, say, the equivalent in the non-range finding thing. Whether that makes a massive difference, I don't know, but I haven't put them side by side to really check, but maybe I might have to see if I can organise that. Where are we? Oh, you've got two questions, Luke. What's going on here? Check out the Kramer design stuff from ultralight bipod tripod. Also have the tripod adapter. Got one on the way, mate. Definitely interested in some feedback on that one. Vic Wide Pest Control. Hey, Robbo. Andy from the HR and half phone call today. G'day, mate. How are you, Andy? Enjoying tonight and our chat today. That was a pleasure, mate. Yeah, Dave's answered here from Hunting a yes, on the ELs they replace the whole hinge pin. SLC to screw in, yeah. So I'm not sure whether that pin can be fitted at Swaro here or what's the go, because I haven't had to do it. I haven't worried about it. Richard Hatfield. Steve, you say that about looking through each binos. Last time I did that, I walked out with a deer. Don't blame me. Yeah, Dave, putting on some good info here on FHF. You have, actually, I think one of my rangefinder pouches is a FHF. All right, Eric. I'm not even going to try it. Probably got it right, I reckon. Zwiggler. The binoculars way, the built-in rangefinder is the way to go. Less kit to carry. Yeah, I hear you, but really the size of a rangefinder, and my only concern is if I ever had an issue, not that you would, but if I ever had an issue with the rangefinder and I had to send it away, I'm without my binos too. So maybe it's a bit old school, but that's just the way I look at it. Luke from Outback Broadheads. Now, he's got some great products out there, guys. So if you're into bow hunting, get on to Luke too. Yep, Carl's helium, mate. The readout side is darker than the non-readout. Still very good quality, though. Yeah, well, that's interesting to know, Luke. And obviously there's a trade-off when you put electronics in any device. And look, Carl's are reasonably new to probably this electronic side of it. But as far as I'm concerned, Carl's have been the best optics that I've used, hands down, over the years. But obviously all the Swaros and that are right up there with them as well. Outback talk about tripod heads with bino adapters. Well, I did mention that a little bit before, and this is Dave. So, like I said, this tripod head is basically a Gitzo, which is, one of the better ones. But basically, it's personal choice, but this has been the best one by far, but I don't think it's made anymore. Yes, but definitely look into it. Look, it's a personal thing, but I personally think you want one that's got one adjustment, your friction adjustment. You can move it to where you want. It holds, and then you can lock it up if you want. That's worked really good for everything from my cameras to the binos to my spotting scope. So, Luke, yep, agreement. Better than nothing and very low. Also, a walking stick with the stud on top as a monopod, multi-purpose. Yep, and that's what you've got to do. You've sort of. It's very hard to find one rig that does everything. And if you're hiking in 7 or 8 k's, you're gonna have to cut weight. Sometimes I've just used our steady sticks, our lightweight aluminium steady sticks, and set them up and set the binos up on top of them. And that's suffice, especially like if you're going to use the heavier ones. But obviously if you're going to go sort of above 12s, you're probably going to need to really have something to steady them down. Keto One product. Hey Robbo, I'm still loving my Vortex Furies rangefinder pair. Yeah, well, I've seen them. I have not tried them, but like I said, if Vortex keep their act together, they do make good optics. I'm not even going to say your second name here, Jack. Have you seen the new Samsung binoculars? No, I haven't. I know they make very, very good solid state hard drives and are one of my favourites. And make pretty good TVs. Vic White Pest Control. Following on from our chat, what would you recommend for my situation for possibly a spotter at night while spotlighting? I wouldn't even consider using a spotting scope for spotlighting, mate, just for the convenience. If you're sitting in one spot, to be honest with you, I'd go those 15s and maybe look at those 15 by 56, the Vortex, because like I said, the boys have been talking pretty highly of those. Dave's, Eric, Jamie M. Hey mate, great show as always. Thanks, Jamie. I don't know much at all about binos. Would something like the Vortex Crossfire HD or Diamondback HD8 be any good for something that won't get a ton of use? Well, like I said, anything's better than nothing. I can't comment on those bottom end sort of the Vortex range, but look at what they're worth new, and then look at what you can buy in the, like I said, the Leica, Swaro, secondhand, Carl's. I'd probably be looking at those myself. Wandering Kiwi. Hey Robbo, cheers for all the time and effort you put into these, mate. No problem, mate. Pleasure. Obviously on a very tight budget. Second that Kiwi. All right, well, we're 50 minutes in and the questions are slowing down. If I got anything else that I could pass on with binos, no, I think I'm getting. I'll give it a minute for me to think of something, and hopefully won't bore you while I'm thinking of anything else. But yeah, look, really, it's a bit like what we normally say: buy once, cry once, but do not count out buying second hand. So, any other questions, guys? We're still flowing. This is. Oh, hold on. Tim Edwards, absolutely loving the Tech Talk. The Garmin Rhino tips were great. I have a set of Leica Trinovid binos and they have no built-in tripod mount. What's a good way to mount them onto a tripod? Okay, the Leica Trinovids, often they still have the center stud, and you mightn't see it there, or in there, but look, the best shot is jump on the outdoorsman site and basically see that I think they may have a list of what studs are available and for what binos. So I'd still recommend that. It's the quickest and easiest way to actually put your binos on. Reg Parker. I want milk that tastes like real milk. I can't help you there, mate. Richard Hadfield, Steve, sure you don't want to come out this weekend, mate. I just can't. I'd love to, but yeah, I can't. Luke from Outback Broadheads, for your information, the Carl's rangefinder binos are cheaper here than OS. Now that's often the case with a lot of the European brand optics. So yeah, definitely do your homework. David McGuinness, where did you get the aftermarket eye cups on the SLCs, and are they universal for other brands of binos? I don't know about the universal, but you can buy them from any, most places that stock Swarovskis, and they just slip over. They just slip over and they actually come with these curved eye cups, and they basically just slip over the top. So I don't know if you're going to see that, but they basically just slip over the existing. And I must admit, on these binos, I don't know if I'd have them on all binos, but on these, the big 15s, geez, they cut out that stray light through the side. So you should be able to buy them from anyone that sells Swaro products, mate. LD Rangefinder is cheap as chips. Righto, Big TG, evening Tiger, joining a little late this evening. Have a pair of Leica Ultravid HD 10-42s and are awesome. Had a pair of Hawk and paid around $650. Ideas on spotting scopes and their effectiveness. Spotting scopes definitely have their place, and for me, a lot of times it replaces a zoom when I'm trying to video. Because to be honest with you, the little adapters that I've made, the camera phones now are just so good and it's so easy to use. That's the biggest thing for me. But other than that, the big spotters are obviously big, heavy and cumbersome to carry in. They do have their place, and if you're sort of pushing if you just want to find deer, the binos will do the job. But if you're a real trophy hunter that's trying to assess antler size and whatever, your spotter's going to come into its own there. And probably once you start to push 500 yards or beyond, if you really want to look at the intricacies of that animal, your spotter. But it's how big you go with them. So, Game Trail Films. G'day, Steve. From my knowledge, the Leicas don't have the stud mount. They have a cradle with rubber strap over the top. Yeah, again, boys, I haven't tried them on the Leica, but look, just do a little bit of homework on that. It's definitely, if you can get the stud on the front, like I said, it's with that stud, you can see it's no inconvenience to the binos in normal use, and you can just whack it on so quick, so easy. I can't recommend it highly enough. Dennis Menace, hey Robbo, just got a pair of binos today. They 7x50 ruby coated, whatever that means. Yeah, makes them look good. I've only been using for target practice. They're only $20. Well, let me know how they go, mate. They're better than nothing, but geez, don't forget to bad binoculars, long use with them. You'll pay the price for getting headaches and that with them too. So, Pat Marbles, hey Robbo, bought a pair of Swarovski 10x42 binos and they only lasted 2 weeks before water got in. Well, never again. Well, have you contacted Swaro about that, Pat? Let me know there, mate, because Swarovski, I'd like to know what model 10x42s and what the whole situation is there. So contact me, mate. Send me a message or whatever. I'd like to have a chat to you about that one. Big TG, thanks, mate, for the feedback. No problem, mate. Pleasure. Yeah, that's Steve. Outback Broadheads, I won some of your heads. They're working great. Oh, that's good to know. Well, Doog Smee, Robbo, almost off topic, but have you thought about recording video through your scope? Yeah, I was probably ahead of the game there. If you look at some of my early varminting stuff, I actually made my own cameras to slide on the back of my Night Force scope. So go back and probably look at some of my early varmint stuff and you'll see what I mean. It's not as effective as you would actually think it's going to be because recoil is your enemy there. Recoil and barrel smoke. So, all right, guys, I think we're just about come to an end. 100 Fisher ends there. What do you think of Leopold binos? Haven't used them enough, mate, to really make comment, but look, if you were to compare, say, Leopold scopes against, say, your top end Swaros, Leicas, whatever, no comparison. So if the binos, and look, I don't want to talk about something I don't really know about, but I can't see them being as good as, say, your Euro stuff. And it sounds a little bit biased, but that's just my experience. Richard, yeah, it was a grouse through bunny busting with you too. Yes, Big 2G, quick question. Do you take different powered binos for different hunts? Yes, very much so. If I know I'm going into the thicker scrub and whatever, and it's just going to be close range, those little 8x32s, and don't get me wrong, they punch way above their weight, and I've used them for longer stuff as well, but those 15s set up on the tripod with that adapter are just, you can just pick everything. You can sort of, it's like you can almost find that needle in the haystack, basically. Ben White, any brand of Bino phone adapter you're aware of cheaper than phone scope? You probably look on eBay, mate, but I've only used the phone scope because I can't afford to have things fail on me in that area. I want something simple and it works, and they've been pretty good. Bradley Moore, great show and knowledge from all. Thanks, mate. Yeah, it's great to see some of the boys, and Dave and some of the other boys, and Luke from Outback Broadheads. I can't thank everyone enough for getting on and being involved, because it's not going to work if we don't sort of all get in and help each other out. So, thanks, mate. Pat Marbles, EL42 binos, an absolute disappointment. Oh, mate, you'll be the first one I've actually heard ever say a pair of EL42s were a hunk of crap. Like I said, Pat, contact me. Let me know the full details, and I'd like to know what the go is there. But I can tell you now, I'll be very surprised if Swarovski, if it's not a genuine mishap, in other words, you've smashed them down the ground, and even then, I'll be very surprised if they don't help you out there. All right, guys, I think that's about it. Look, again, guys, thanks very much for dropping by. And next week, I think we might talk about scopes. Hunting scopes we'll talk about. I'll have a think about it, but at this stage, that's what we're going to do. So, again, guys, until next time, thanks again for dropping by.